Mr. Chairman and Mr. Holder, thank you for being here today. And I actually want to follow up a little bit on what my good friend Trey Gowdy was saying. As you know, you and I have had many disagreements over our history. And I hope you know now that I'm from Idaho. And one area where we agree is on the Smarter Sentencing Act, which I have introduced in the House with my colleague on the committee, Congressman Bobby Scott. I'm very pleased that you're supportive of this legislation. I also understand that the President is supportive of this legislation. However, the concern that I have, my job as a member of Congress is to try to get my like-minded friends to agree with me on certain pieces of legislation, even if it's outside of the scope of what they usually think about. And this is something that I think you would agree Republicans have not always agreed with Democrats on, and it's something that I've been working for the last year or so, trying to get Republicans on board. But you make actually my job much more difficult when you unilaterally, as you have, you write memos and you try to do the same thing through memos that we're trying to accomplish through this legislation. When you say that you're not seeking mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent drug crimes, you're working around Congress instead of with Congress. So I'm extending to you my hand right now to work with you to help pass the Smarter Sentencing Act. But could you please help me try to pass this Smarter Sentencing Act by not going around the law and by trying not to work through executive action only, but actually working with Congress. Could you do that for me? Because it's making my job much more difficult.
Well, we certainly want to work with you. As I indicated to Congressman Gowdy, I think the policy pronouncements that I made, and frankly, the raising of this issue in that speech I gave in August, 2013, I guess, at the ABA in San Francisco, is what really, in many ways, generated the conversation that we're now having. Again, I'm talking about pushing discretion to assistant U.S. attorneys to make determinations about what is an appropriate sentence, what is an appropriate charging decision, subject to supervisory control for a defendant that is in front of them, as opposed to a previous policy that existed that required every assistant U.S. attorney to charge the most serious offense that could be proven, almost regardless of what other factors were in existence. I got more faith in the men and women who served in this Department of Justice to make the right decisions.
But you're telling them not to charge certain crimes. So I'm not sure that you are exhibiting faith. You're actually telling them don't charge certain crimes, and if they don't follow your orders, I think it's going to be something that I've never been an assistant U.S. attorney like my good friend Trey Gowdy, but I'm not sure that that's something that somebody would do. Now let's talk about a different issue. We've heard a lot recently about the President's record of deportations, and my friends on the other side continue to say that these are record deportations, that we haven't had as many deportations in the history of the United States. But my understanding is that the majority of what the administration is counting as deportations are from the border and not from the interior. Is that correct?
I'm just not aware. I don't know that.
And when I look at the number of orders of removals in the DOJ's FY 2012 statistical yearbook, I see that they actually have dropped since 30% since 2009 and are down by 42% since 2005. How do you explain the administration's claim that we have record deportations, but your own statistical yearbook says that they have dropped and continue to drop in 2013?
Well, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I know that the President has been, I think, unfairly labeled the deporter-in-chief. I think he's...
Well, I agree with you. I think he has been unfairly labeled because we're playing tricks with the numbers. You're counting people who were stopped at the border that in the past were not being counted as deportations. And I think it's been a trick of my friends on the other side to try to claim that there's been a record number of deportations, but I actually don't think that is, the evidence does not bear that out.
Well, when I said unfairly, I only meant to say that this somehow betrays a an inconsistency in what the President has proposed with regard to his comprehensive immigration plan and his sensitivity to the needs of the immigrant community and what he has done with regard to these deportations. I don't think that there is necessarily a tension between them, and that's why I think the label that has sometimes been placed on him is an unfair one.
Okay. Thank you. I yield back my time.
Chair thanks the gentleman.